Hey there, I'm Scott Telek, author of the Swithen series of Arthurian novels, the only book series committed to telling the actual legend of King Arthur from the real medieval sources. I'm going to take 25 novels to tell the full Arthurian legend in the real scope and majesty that it deserves, and 5 of those novels are finished and out right now. The first book in the series is called A Man of Our Kind, and it sets the entire story in motion. This book is actually 2 intertwining stories. One is of the birth of Merlin, and the other is of this tyrant King Vortigern, who leaves Britain in such a bad place that it's crying out for someone like King Arthur to come and fix it up. So really the entire Arthurian legend begins here. The book actually begins in hell, and this is in the Arthurian legend, although we don't often hear about it. The devil wants a man on earth to lead people into temptation, and so he chooses this woman Aide and kills off her entire family until he can finally get to her. So the whole first part of this book is kind of this horror story as the demons living in their house and picking off her entire family one by one. Now Aide figures out a way to outwit the devil and allow her baby to keep his powers but use them for good, and her baby, of course, is the most legendary wizard of all time, Merlin. Did you know this was Merlin's origin story? I'd never heard it before, and it is only one version of his legendary origins, but it is the version that's been in place since the year 1136. The reason we don't know it is because it was left out of Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, which has become the most popular version of the legend. But the idea with my series is to bring back all these parts that were left out and tell the entire thing as one cohesive whole. In the other strand being told in the book, the king, Constance, has died, and his assistant, Vortigern, takes the king's son out of the monkhood and installs him as king. Now, Vortigern knows this kid isn't smart enough to be king, but he uses his position as his assistant to channel more power and property toward himself, knowing all the while everybody is saying, "Hey, Vortigern, you should be king, not this kid." Now, Vortigern is a very bad man, and his story is filled with lots of murder and intrigue and treachery, which of course means it's super fun. Meanwhile, King Constance's other sons, Pendragon and Uther, go into hiding because they know that Vortigern will try to have them killed next. And if you know anything about the Arthurian legend, you know that Uther goes on to become the father of King Arthur, which is the story told in Book 3. Speaking of King Arthur, by the end of Book 1 we have a baby Merlin, and he's been born with knowledge of everything that ever has happened and everything that ever will happen, and he's wondering what to do with these awesome powers he's been born with. And what Merlin decides to do with his powers is to create this incredible king who can transform Britain in the way that he would like. And that king, of course, is King Arthur. So we see Merlin's mind develop, and we see how his mother helped to influence his developing sense of right and wrong. The problem is, at the time, having an illegitimate child meant an automatic sentence of death by burning at the stake. So by the end of the book, it's up to the baby Merlin to defend his mother at the trial for her life. And all of this follows the Arthurian legend as laid down between the years 1136 and 1485. The rule of my series is that I can't change anything from the actual Arthurian legend. I can only add or enhance scenes and characters, so you'll know that as you're reading the books in the Swithen series, you're actually learning the real Arthurian legend as it was laid down in medieval times. And because of that, the other books in the series aren't really sequels. They're just the next section in one incredibly long, incredibly intertwined, cohesive saga. And because the ending of this story is already in place now, everything, including this first book, is already leading up to it. No making it up as we go. And that whole saga begins right here with the story of the king who ruined Britain, and the story of the birth of Merlin, the wizard with the plan in place to create King Arthur, the king who can put it all to right. Thanks for watching, and I hope you check out A Man of Our Kind, the Swithen Book 1. Next up is Book 2, which brings Merlin and Vortigern together and covers the return of Pendragon and Uther.